Story Corner, presented by Jennifer. Mercy Thompson. Book 1, Moon Called. Chapter 3, Part 2.
You didn't inform me that you had a strange wolf on your doorstep.
I gave him a put-upon sign. I'm not one of your pack members, Adam. I know this is difficult for you to fathom, so I'll speak slowly. I don't belong to you. I am under no obligation to tell you anything.
Adam swore harshly.
New werewolves are dangerous, woman, especially when they are cold and hungry. He looked at Mac, and his voice changed completely, the heat and anger gone. Mercy, come here.
I didn't look down to see what he noticed in Mac's face. I took a step, but Mac was wrapped around my left leg. I stopped before I fell. I'm a little stuck for the moment.
For a smart girl, you're pretty stupid sometimes, he said, his voice
rich and gentle so as not to startle the werewolf by my side.
Locking yourself in a garage with a new werewolf and a dead body isn't the smartest thing you could have done. I don't have a connection with him yet. It would help if you had his real name.
Mac, I murmured. What's your name?
Alan, he said dreamily,
coming up to his knees so his face was pressed against my belly.
Alan Mackenzie, French Fraser, after my grandfather, who died the year before I was born.
The friction of his movement rocked up my shirt up, and he licked my bare skin. To an outsider, it might have looked sensual, but the abdomen is a valuable spot on the body, a favorite of predators.
You smell good, he whispered.
He smelled like werewolf, and I was starting to panic, which wasn't a very useful thing to do.
Alan, said Adam, rolling the name on his tongue. Alan Mackenzie Fraser, come here to me.
Mac jerked his head away from me, but tightened his arms painfully on my hip. He looked at Adam and growled, a low rumble that caused his chest to vibrate against my leg.
Mine, he said.
Adam's eyes narrowed.
I don't think so. She is mine.
It would have been flattering, I thought, except that at least one of them was talking about dinner, and I wasn't certain about the other. While Adam had Mac distracted, I reached behind me and grabbed my big crowbar from the shelf directly behind us. I brought it down on Mac's collarbone. It was an awkward hit because I didn't have much leverage, but the collarbone, even on a werewolf, is not hard to damage. I heard the bone crack and wrenched myself out of Mac's grip and across the garage before he recovered from the unexpected pain. I didn't like hurting him, but he would heal in a few hours as long as I didn't let him eat me. I didn't think he was the kind of person who would recover from murder as easily as he would from a broken bone. Adam had moved almost as quickly as I had. He grabbed Matt by the scruff of his neck and jerked him up to his feet. Adam, I said from a relative safe distance at the far end of the garage, he's new and untaught, a victim. I kept my voice quiet so I didn't add to the excitement. It helped that Mac wasn't looking particularly dangerous at the moment. He hung limply in Adam's grip.
Sorry, he said almost inaudibly. Sorry.
Adam let out an exasperated huff of air and lowered Mac to the ground. on his feet at first, but when Mac's knees proved too limp to hold him, Adam eased him all the way down. "Hurts," said Mac. "I know." Adam didn't sound angry anymore. Of course, he was talking to Mac, not me. "If you change, it'll heal faster." Mac blinked at him.
"I don't think he knows how to do it on purpose,"
I offered. Adam slanted a thoughtful look at the body and then back at me. "You said something about a cage and experiments?" Mac didn't say anything, so I nodded.
"That's what he told me. Apparently, someone has a drug that they're trying to get to work on werewolves."
I told him what Mac had told me, then gave him the details of my own encounter with the dead werewolf and his human comrade. I already told Adam most of the salad facts, but I wasn't certain how much information made it through his anger, so I just told him all of it again. "Darn it," Adam said scrutinously when I finished. "Poor kid." He turned back to Mac. "All right, you're going to be fine. The first thing we're going to do is call your wolf out so you can heal." "No," Max said, looking wildly at me, then at the dead wolf man. "I can't control myself when I'm like that. I'll hurt someone." "Look at me," said Adam. Even though the dark, raspy voice hadn't been directed at me, I found myself unable to pull my eyes off him. Mac was riveted. "It's all right, Alan. I won't allow you to hurt Mercy, much as she deserves it. Nor," Adam continued, proving that he was observant, "will I allow you to eat the dead." When Mac hesitated, I walked back over and knelt beside Adam so I could look into Mac's eyes.
"I told you he can control your wolf until you can. That's why he's alpha. You can trust him."
Mac stared at me, then closed his eyes and nodded. "All right, but I don't know how." "You'll get the hang of it," Adam said. "But for right now, I'll help you." His knee nudged me away, and he got out his pocket knife. "This will be easier without your clothing." I got up as unobtrusively as I could and tried not to flinch when Mac cried out. The change is not easy nor painless at the best of times, and it was worse without the aid of the moon's call. I don't know why they can't change like I do, but I had to close my eyes against the pain sounds that came from the corner of my garage. Certainly, the broken collarbone didn't make the shift any easier for Mac. Some werewolves can change relatively quickly with practice, but a new wolf can take a lot of time. I slipped out of the garage through the office and walked out the door, both to give them some privacy and because I couldn't bear Mac suffering anymore. I sat on the single cement step outside the office and waited. Elizabeth returned, leaning on her grandson's arm, about the same time that Mac's screams turned into a wolf's cry.
"Is there another werewolf?"
Elizabeth asked. I nodded and got to my feet.
"That boy I told you about," I said. "Adam's here, though, so it's safe. Did you clean Stefan's van?"
I nodded at the bus.
Yes. Did you think you were dealing with an amateur?"
She gave an offended sniff.
"Your vampire friend will never know that his van held a corpse other than his own."
"Thank you." I tilted my head, but I couldn't hear anything from inside the garage, so I opened the office door and called.
"Adam?"
"It's all right," he said, sounding tired. "It's safe."
"Elizabeth is here with her chauffeur,"
I warned him in case he hadn't noticed them when he stormed in. "Have her come in too." I would have held open the door, but Elvison's grandson took it out of my hand and held it for both of us. Elzevin shifted her bony grasp from his arm to mine, though from the strength of her grip, I was pretty certain that she didn't need any help walking. Mac had curled up in the far corner of the garage where I left him. His wolf form was dark gray, blending with the shadows on the cement floor. He had one white foot and one stripe down his nose. Werewolves usually have markings that are more dog-like than wolf-like. I don't know why. Brian, the merc crow, has a splash of white on his tail, as though he dipped it in a bucket of paint. I think it's cute, but I never had the nerve to tell him so. Adam was kneeling beside the dead man, paying no attention to Mac at all. He looked up when we came in from the office. Elizabeth of Coverda, he said in a formal greeting, then added something in Russian. Switching back to English, he continued, Robert, thank you for coming tonight. Elizabeth said something in Russian directly to Adam. Not quite yet, Adam replied. Can you reverse his change? He gestured to the dead man. I don't recognize his scent, but I'd like to get a good look at his face. Elizabeth frowned and spoke rapidly in Russian to her grandson. His response had her nodding, and they chatted for a few moments more before she turned back to Adam. That might be possible. I can certainly try. I don't suppose you have a camera here, Mercy? Adam asked. I do, I told him. I work on old cars. Sometimes I work on cars that other people have restored in new and interesting fashions. I found that getting a picture of the cars before I work on them is useful in putting them back together again. I'll get it. And bring a piece of paper and an ink stamp pad if you have it. I'll send his fingerprints to a friend for identification. By the time I returned, the corpse was back in human form, and the hole I had torn in his neck gaped open like a popped balloon. His skin was blue with blood loss. I'd seen dead men before, but none that I was responsible for killing. The change had torn his clothing, and not the interesting way that comic books and fantasy artists always depict it. The crotch of his pants was ripped open along with his blood-soaked shirt's neck and shoulder seams. It seemed terribly undignified. Adam took the digital camera from me and snapped a few pictures from different angles, then tucked it back into its case and slung it over his shoulder. I'll get it back to you as soon as I can get these pictures off of it, he promised absently as he took the paper and ink and an ink stamp and rather expertly rolled the limp fingers in the ink and then on the sheet of paper. Things moved rapidly after that. Adam helped Elizabeth's grandson deposit the body in the luxurious depths of the trunk of her car for disposal. Elizabeth did her mumbles and shakes that washed my garage in magic and, hopefully, left it clean of any evidence that I'd ever had a dead man inside. She took Mac's clothing too. Hush, Adam said when Mac growled in objection. They were little more than rags anyways. I've clothes that should fit you at my house, and we'll pick up more tomorrow. Mac gave him a look. You're coming with me. You're coming home with me, Adam said in a tone that broke no argument. I'll not have a new werewolf running loose around my city. You come and learn a thing or two, and then I'll let you stay or go as you choose, but not until I'm satisfied you can control yourself. I am going now, and it is not good for an old woman like me to be up this late, Elizabeth said. She looked at me and sourly. Don't do anything stupid for a while if you can help it, Mercedes. I do not want to come back out here. She sounded as if she came out to clean up my messes on a regular basis, though this was the first time. I was tired, and the sick feeling that killing a man left in my stomach was still trying to bring up what little was left of my dinner. Her sharpness raised the hackles I was too on edge to put down, so my response wasn't as diplomatic as it ought to have been. I wouldn't want that either, I said smoothly. She caught the implied insult, but I kept my eyes wide and limpid so she wouldn't know whether I meant it or not. Insulting witches is right up there with on the stupid list with enraging alpha werewolves and cuddling with new werewolves next to a dead body. All of which I've done tonight. I couldn't help it though. Defiance was a habit I developed to preserve myself while growing up with a pack of dominants and largely male werewolves. Werewolves, like other predators, respect bravo. If you are too careful not to anger them, they'll see it as weakness. And weak things are prey. Tomorrow I was going to repair old cars and keep my head down for a while. I'd used all my luck tonight. Adam seemed to agree because he took Alpha's hand and tucked it into the crook of his elbow, drawing her attention back to him as he escorted her back to her car. Her grandson Robert gave me a lazy grin. Don't push the babushka too hard, Mercy, he said softly. She likes you, but that won't stop her if she feels you aren't showing her the proper respect. I know, I said. I'm going home to see if a few hours of sleep won't curb my tongue before it gets us into trouble. I meant it to sound humorous, but it came out tired. Robert gave me a sympathetic smile before he left. A heavy weight leaned against my hip, and I looked down to see Mac. He gave me what I imagined was a sympathetic look. Adam was still with Elizabeth, but Mac didn't seem to be having trouble. I scratched him lightly behind his one pricked ear. Come on, I told him. Let's lock up. This time I remembered to grab my purse.